Let me get this straight. Are you saying that you'd rather talk about canoeing than Cassellholme?
Oh, let's do it. Let's do it. Favorite canoe trip was. Yeah, but not, yeah, if you want, whatever you want. Cassellholme, I'm good for like an hour.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
We're going to get into it. You're a returning counselor, running again. Why?
Good question. I asked myself that many times. One term with Vic Fidelli.
Mm-hmm.
That was 4 years. 3 terms with Mayor Al. Personally, I think he's done a good job, and I've enjoyed working with Al.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, all of a sudden, in the blink of an eye, there goes 16 years, but I've enjoyed it. There were some evenings this spring. There's some nice nights when I thought, wouldn't you rather just go outside, go canoeing, go for a walk with the dog, rather than go to whatever the meeting was that was on the agenda. But no, at the end of the day, I want to run. I want to be part of it. There's some very important discussions coming up in the next few years. I'd like to be part of it if I can.
Which ones? Which discussions?
Source water protection is one.
Mm-hmm.
Cassellholme, I see ongoing issues there between the municipalities and the board. Less, I don't think it's contentious at all, but maintaining a strong capital budget. The province has mandated that all municipalities address their capital budget infrastructure deficit, which for North Bay is about $27 million. If you add up everything we've got, how much we should repair every year, we're spending about $32 million a year right now on capital. We probably should be spending another $27 million. And the province wants to know how we're going to meet that commitment by the end of the next 4 years. So some people have thrown out, oh my gosh, we're going to have to double our capital budget in the next 4 years. No, we're not. There are other ways to address it. We are going to try and grow the capital budget in real dollars, slowly, incrementally. But there are ways that we can do it. And, that's the engineering staff are giving thought to that already.
Well, you guys been talking about that and addressing it that way for the whole time you've been on council. I thought that pay as you go, and you had a plan and.
No, and absolutely agreed. It goes back to when Brian Rogers was the CFO on council. Peter Churko was the deputy mayor. Even then, they could see there was a long-term capital budget deficit. How are we going to address it? Well, okay, we're going to grow the capital budget 1% minimum, real dollars every year over and above inflation.
Mm-hmm.
So the capital budget's gone from about, say, 22, 24 up to 32 now. So that's significant incremental growth, and the goal is to continue that.
Yeah.
And I'll give you some examples of how we see ourselves growing the capital budget without just rolling it over as a tax increase. Number one, let's look at the amortization of some of the assets. So we might have on the books that this road is going to have a lifetime value of 20 years. Okay, well, can we make it 25 years or 23 years? So let's extend some of the amortization, and that takes some of the pressure off the capital budget. Let's have a closer look at what we're estimating for capital costs. The easy example on that one right now is Lees Road. Lees Road was on the books at about a $6 million project. When we went to tender this summer, it came back and the work's being done for $3 million. So, things like that can actually make a difference to the capital budget. So that's what we're hoping to address it over the next few years. There will still have to be some real growth, but it's not just a question of growing the budget by 4, 5, 6% per year to meet the demands in the future.
Now, you said you were aiming for 1% over inflation?
Right.
In a year like this, how would you handle something like that when inflation is significant?
So not every year, but from time to time there are opportunities for new revenue. And we can look back in the last 4 years. The accommodations tax came forward about 4%, which is shared with Tourism North Bay. But that provides real money for the city of North Bay to address our sports facilities costs with. So that's new money for projects like Omichel that really had no previous line item financing. Here comes the casino. And the casino has never been put into the budget with a forecast of here's how much money we think we're going to get. Personally, I was thinking we might be lucky to get $250,000 a year, and was very surprised this spring when they came up with about $250,000 in revenue to the city within a 3 or 4 month period. So there's new revenue that the city had not counted for. Whatever the overall budget is, it now becomes revenue, but that takes pressure off of the overall budget.
Yeah, I guess it would, but I'm pretty sure I remember somebody saying that the grease that you get from the casino is going to address some of the policing and social services concerns that people were afraid the casino would amplify.
So nothing's allocated that specifically from the budget.
Oh, okay.
Money comes in, here's the expenses.
So that was just a thought.
Right, wherever it comes in as revenue. Okay, so here's the police budget. They need either new weapons or more cars or more constables. Having a look at it, okay, we'll approve it, and that becomes part of the budget.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the new revenues certainly would go towards any increased costs in the police budget. And new revenues take pressures off of simply passing on those increases to taxpayers.
Now, just pick on one little thing you said, and it's not that significant, but you said you look at the amortization years, or for a certain project, a road for 20, you can move it to 23. Does that mean putting up with potholes for an extra 3 years?
Minimum.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear. I thought that's what you said.
No, and to be brutally honest, I do get calls. So I also chair engineering, have done that or infrastructure and operations now. Done that for the last 8 years, and you do get calls on a regular basis, especially from some of the rural residents whose roads are starting to crumble along the sides. They haven't been paid for 20 or 30 years. When are you going to repave my 5 kilometers of road? We've got 3 houses on this road, and we all want this road repaved tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, reality is that road probably won't be repaved. It's so expensive. It probably over time will be allowed to return back to gravel. We just, as much as we would like to pave everything in sight, we do set very specific budget parameters. Here's how much we're going to do for resurfacing in the city, which is about $3.7 million. Here's how much we set aside towards rural roads. And there are some sections, especially longer sections that may have been paved years ago, that are just not financially reasonable to resurface again.
Wow. Do you not realize there's an election campaign going on, and you're talking logic, reality, and priorities?
Don't be honest. Okay, we're gonna pave everything by October. Okay.
So you're kind of running on the smart budgeting ticket? I'm just kidding.
Hopefully. Well, no, practical. With engineering, you do see what the costs are, what the pressures are. You can't have everything. Even the roads we come up with every spring, there might be 35, 37 roads that are identified for resurfacing. And as soon as that's published, there are 15 people whose roads are in bad shape as well, but as determined by a third-party engineering company, aren't seen to be in as bad repair for the volume of use they get. So, we'll try and address the roads as we can, especially within the city, but it is done on a budgeted, over time basis.
And if you get sued?
Well, okay, so I leave that to Public Works and the engineering staff. We're always very extremely aware of liability. That's what municipalities live on. With joint and several liability, which is still very active in the province of Ontario, if the city has a 1% stake in whatever the liability issue is, someone drives off the road, becomes paraplegic, if we have a 1% interest in whatever happened, if the property owner of the other 99% has no money, then the city's 1% ends up paying that entire cost. And there have been arguments for years as to how reasonable and how fair that is. But right now in the province of Ontario, that is the reality. So I would say engineering, public works staff are extremely aware of liability. It's something that factors into pretty much every decision they make.
I wanted to talk to you about conflict of interest, just briefly. I know...
I have a conflict on that.
Yeah, well, that's what you want to declare every time.
Okay.
Okay, for example, one of my concerns would, if I would have ran,
and sorry you didn't.
I'm so glad I didn't.
I thought you would have made a great voice on council. You're actually a lot more familiar with the issues than most people, even on council.
Well, thank you for that. One of my concerns is that I still wanted to come out with my magazine, and I have to sell ads. Is that something that triggers a conflict if a business would have bought an ad in my magazine, but an issue came up at council because it would be a client or a customer? And the same would go for you and your travel business.
Right, I'd have to drill down that. So I actually have been accused of having a conflict of interest on fairly significant issues in the past, where someone said, you can't vote on that issue because, you sold him a trip. Okay. It actually cost $1,500 to get a legal opinion because I wanted to vote on this issue. And I could see where, someone was trying to push me out of the equation. And the lawyers came back and said, no, the amount that I might have made on that trip is so insignificant, it's not seen to be material.
Oh.
So it depends on the issue.
Becoming a bigger and bigger issue, it seems, in people's minds. Conflicts.
Yeah. Well, to some extent, whenever it's budget time, I'm arguing to lower my own income taxes. So I've got a conflict on every decision I make, basically. Mm-hmm. But is it something I personally benefit from to the exclusion of everyone else, or is it something that everyone else is going to benefit from? So again, it's something that everyone is more aware of.
Yeah, there's a difference between common benefit and individual direct benefit. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is something everyone's aware of. We do have access to an integrity commissioner if we have concerns on an issue. Can I vote on this issue, or will even be referred to third parties for legal advice as required. I've done that a couple of times over the year, but if you have to do it, you have to do it. Yeah.
Now, the whole process of each municipality required to have an integrity commissioner and code of conduct and that kind of thing, does that preclude somebody being charged or sued or what for the conflict of interest? Is it still possible? I know that used to be the case, and it was hard to do because nobody wanted to get involved with it, and prosecutors wouldn't do it. Right.
So I don't think it precludes it, but it's another step.
Yeah.
So if you have a concern that Councillor A did something that they might have benefited privately from, you can contact the City High. I'd like to file a complaint with your integrity commissioner. He will hear your information, talk to the councillor, and come back with an opinion. Yes, this is conflict or inappropriate, and here's what I recommend. That might be no salary as a councillor for 3 months, whatever it is. If you're not happy with that outcome, you can always go to your own legal counsel. But I think with the integrity commissioner, it gives everyone an opportunity to do something before they go to lawyers who are expensive. And lawyers are worth avoiding if we can. So, I think that was a positive improvement for council 4 years ago to bring it forward. Here's a bit of a process, or if there are any complaints or problems.
Yeah, it could work for you, or it could be a pain in the budget, like in Elliott Lake.
Well, whenever there is public money spent on a integrity commissioner or lawyers, and we have had more than our share of legal expenses in the last years. I think everyone finds that extremely frustrating. Sometimes it's just necessary, you have to do it to cover liability for individuals or a board or whatever the situation is. But I don't think anyone likes to see public monies spent unnecessarily on issues like that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's get back to the campaign you're in. What are you hearing at the doors? Are you door knocking, or what do you do for a campaign? You rest on your laurels?
No, a little bit of everything. I'm always surprised myself. For the most part, when I ask people, so what do you think about the upcoming election? Oh, there's an election? Yeah, municipal election. Who are you voting for? Oh, well, I hadn't really thought about it. Did you vote in the last election? No. Oh, okay.
Well, that's about half of the people.
Yeah, so reality is, I think only about 42, 44% of people even voted in the last municipal election. So the people I tend to hear from are people who have had signs up before, who know me enough to call and ask for questions. We're getting all kinds of questionnaires from different interest groups. Generally, it seems like a quieter campaign. There don't seem to be any burning issues for whatever reason. There was the OPSU Labor Evening this past Monday night, and I thought it was fairly well attended. Everyone has concerns. What are you going to do about this? Certainly, homelessness and addictions is top of mind for a lot of people. But the first thing I point out is that in the North Bay municipal budget, there is no line item to address homelessness and addictions. We do invest significant money through DSAB, but really that's where it's addressed, with the support of the province through healthcare, social services, Nipissing mental health and housing services. There's a whole spectrum of services that are available. The issue for the municipality is to keep those people engaged. If I could recognize one person who has made a significant difference in our community in the last 4 years, and she is the manager of DSAB, Catherine Matheson. We picked her up about 4 years ago from Oshawa, and at our first Roma meeting, where you get a chance to meet some of the ministers and individuals involved, she already had some concrete proposals that she proposed to then minister to Bulo, and within 6 to 9 months, and with the support of MPP Vic Fideli as well, we came forward with the Low Barrier Shelter. Here's a transition house. These are both model pilot projects in Ontario, and they were built and are operating in North Bay because of Catherine's ability to create and manage those relationships, and certainly with the strong support of Vic as well. So, but it's interesting the difference that some people can make if they really focus and bring their resources to the table on an issue. Certainly a lot more needs to be done, and a lot of people would argue it, but personally I think we are making some progress to addressing homelessness and addictions in the community.
Yeah, well, that investment in a lot of that work's already been done. It just hasn't had time to have an impact, or even a chance to have an impact. The low barrier shelter, are you referring to the old OPP building?
Correct.
In that area?
Yeah, so there's a low barrier shelter, about 16 beds. Come on in, no questions asked. You can't drink, you can't use drugs while you're there, you can't be violent, but here's a safe place to spend the night. 8 p.m. out the next morning at 8 a.m. Transition house, the goal there is for people who have behaved well at the low barrier shelter and are interested in making the effort to get into an apartment. Okay, here's transition house. So now you've got a bedroom. Mm-hmm. You've got someone who's going to basically be your caseworker.
Are you on the DSAP board?
16 years.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Do you have a diagnosis? That is such an easy question to ask. Like, do you know what you're dealing with yourself? Mm-hmm. If you have a diagnosis, who's your doctor? What are your medications? Are you taking your medications? And a lot of the kids just won't. Various reasons. They got a doctor, they got medications, they just don't like the way they make them feel, and so they get off their medications and pretty much withdraw from society. So transition house, there's some supervision. Are you taking your medications? Perfect, great. Are you able to prepare some meals on your own? Nothing fancy, but can you start to live independently? Are you not a harm to yourself or anyone else? And if they've done that for 4 or 5 or 6 months, okay, tell you what, we've now got an apartment for you at this location. Mm-hmm. Would you like to go there? Most of them do, unless for whatever reason they have some kind of a relapse, and that's always unfortunate. And then the process starts all over again. No one's ever, I think the policy is termed no wrong door. They're always open to welcoming people in who need assistance, and it's a long-term, very time-consuming process, but it does get people off the street. And the other example I can quote, about a year and a half ago, a lot of people spoke to the tent village off of Jet Avenue near the railway access that was eventually closed because of concerns for personal safety. Over about 6 weeks, DSAB went and spoke to each of those individuals. It was not a police corral, round them up, throw them in the back of the bus, drive them out. Hi, how are you? What's your situation? Can we get you anything? Can we, are you taking your medications? Can we get you coffee? Do you have a place to stay? Would you like to have a place to stay? And over about 6 weeks, they did find accommodations for everyone. Some people just motel rooms, because that's often the most easily available. But that's the better way for it to be managed. You can't just round people up, drop them off at the city limits and hope they're going to go away. It's to try and find long-term sustainable solutions, but that's where you need to involve healthcare and social services, as well as the accommodations that the city can help provide through DSAP.
That's just down the road from the Cassellholme reconstruction, so let's talk about that next.
Well, and good old Cassellholme, just to tie that in. So good old Cassellholme, they call it rush hour. In the evening before the low barrier shelter opens up, there are individuals who work their way up Olive Street, and because they've had a bad day or they're bored, they just knock the mirrors off the side of cars. And we get them on the security cameras, and we know exactly who they are, and the police go and talk to them up at the shelter. Hey, do you want to charge them? Why? Why?
Yeah. No, I want to talk about the Cassellholme project.
No, well, I was just trying to make
that was my segue.
I was trying to help with the segue there, yeah. But no, Cassellholme. So certainly Cassellholme. Fire away. Ask a question.
Okay, so you already went through that process. It was very conflicted with your municipal partners and North Bay City Council and the Cassellholme board, and things have progressed to the point where the construction started. It's going to be there, whether you like it or not. And there's been a division from Castle Arms and Cassellholme that I don't quite understand. And Jamie Lowry, who's CAO of Cassellholme, is now executive over at Castle Arms. What is going on over there?
Correct. So a few years ago, the province mandated that long-term senior independent living apartments be separated from long-term care homes. So what Cassellholme did over the years was build 4 apartment buildings, and they do earn a revenue. We take about $140,000 a year as a management fee from the Castle Arms apartments, and we offset the Cassellholme revenue with that. So that's $140,000 a year we don't have to pass on to municipalities. So it was a great idea, a great model for Cassellholme, but the province was concerned that shouldn't that money be reinvested back into finding independent accommodations for seniors? Because that's been identified as another growing need in our community, but province-wide as well. People who can no longer really look after their house, they don't need nursing, they don't need a bed, don't need a wheelchair, they just need someone to look after a little bit of the landscaping, some of the maintenance on the apartment, help with fixtures, with windows, things like that. So the boards were separated. Now, historically, the Cassellholme board was exactly the same as the Castle Arms board, but we're now in the process of changing the Castle Arms board into more of a career or skills-based board. So I chaired that myself, other board members, Mark King, Sherry Culling, Ellen McCory, who's a resident, and I think we've got room for 1 or 2 more, and that'll be filled, I'm sure, in the next year. So the goal of Castle Arms is to try and grow, over the next 4 years, the inventory of senior independent living apartments in the community, and we're fairly comfortable we can do that. One of the buildings, the mortgage is almost paid for. We're not sure how we're going to do it because there are issues around being a not-for-profit, and all of a sudden you've got an $800,000 revenue. Okay, so anyway, we're working on that. It's a good situation to be in, but the goal will be how do we stay not-for-profit and try and invest those funds into creating a Castle Arms 5, something like that.
Is that the one down at the end of Olive there, near Thompson Park?
That's Castle Arms 4. Yep, there are actually 3 apartment buildings behind the original castle.
No, I'm thinking on the other side of Castles, down there. Okay, it might be something else I'm thinking of.
Mackay Homes?
Yeah.
Okay, so Mackay Homes was just taken over by DSAB.
Oh, okay, that's what it was.
Yeah,
Okay.
the board there, well, same situation. A lot of the apartments had been paid off. They were almost mortgage free. The board was getting older, looking to retire. They also wanted to sell it for significant money, right? Like, okay, how much would it cost to build 275 units right now? Well, geez, this is worth $4 or $5 million bucks. Okay, you're right, it is. But they also wanted to keep the residents in the homes at their existing rents, which are $275 a month.
Kind of limits your market for sale.
Right. So unless you're prepared to move in and bring everybody up to market value rents of $1,200 and $1,400 bucks, and for a lot of the seniors there on fixed incomes, I don't know where they would have gone.
Yeah.
You know. So Mackay Homes board worked very well with DSAB. They agreed to a comfortable price that sees DSAB take over and manage those units. Over time, the rents will go up a little bit. As one person leaves, let's go in, renovate, bring it up a little bit. But DSAB's goal is to provide subsidized rental housing in the community. Right now, we already provide about 2,000 units, various degrees of subsidy depending on needs and mobility issues, whatever. But you know, Mackay Homes is a great asset to that mix.
Well, I guess so, because if it was sold to a private developer, they probably would have raised it, and that's nice property there.
Oh,
So you would have had all those people back on looking for a place to stay, and you would have had to build
Right.
new or.
Right. So if you've got a rent of $275 a month, and you're on a pension of $1,000 a month, where are you going to go in North Bay?
But that actually reflects where a lot of people are trying to get by. They're not making much more than $1,000 or $2,000 a month, and you almost need rents to be closer to that than what they are.
That's a whole other issue.
Yeah, I know.
Crack out the beer and let's talk about it.
Yeah.
But if you talk to some of the landlords,
Yeah.
and there are some landlords in town, one of them used to be a city councillor, who actually do rent out very basic old rooms at $400 and $600 a month, who could easily renovate their buildings or sell their buildings and rent them for significantly more. But they appreciate there is a need in the community. They actually have made a conscientious generational decision, because it was his father before that said, look, we need to provide places for people to stay in our community that are more affordable. So yeah, we're fortunate there are some people.
Is that Cassellholme?
Did I say that?
Okay.
But yeah, just they do a wonderful job. We're very
Yeah,
fortunate.
well,
to have them here.
Judy's a good person
for sure.
involved with that, and Anthony does a lot of good stuff too.
Yes.
I might end up someday looking for one of those cheap places, so I'm not going to say nothing
There
bad
you go.
about them.
But they provide the services. So if your toilet breaks or your white lights aren't working, they provide the services, and they go around and they pick up needles and garbage and all the other paraphernalia that come with some of those associated tenants. Multiple police calls. They're extremely patient, but they have a good staff that work with them. And as a community, we're fortunate to have them, because that actually adds 200 or 300 more units in the community over and above what DSAB was already trying to provide.
Well, that's a better way to look at it. I know some people look down on landlords that have places that aren't the best, but they're doing the Lord's work there, because I know what they have to deal with.
Yep. Nope. Agreed. So you have to edit this down to 3 minutes, right?
If you want to take 3-minute chunks out and do whatever you want with, if you say something brilliant and you want to chop it up, you can use it.
Okay.
I'm going to be putting in the whole 30 to 40 minutes, and whoever
geez.
watches it, I'm sorry you don't have a life. And
That's right.
I tell you,
Hopefully this helps you get to sleep.
I was told that quite a few people watched the whole Joanne Brosseau one.
Okay.
And because they're intent on trying to figure out people right now, so
Okay.
I don't know. We're talking about some fairly dry and complex stuff, so that might not keep engagement. But
Okay.
I'm not here for clickbait, so I don't
No, no,
care.
okay.
Really,
Okay.
it's up to you what you want to do with it.
Well, so on council, there are 3 people having affairs with other members of council.
Oh, right on.
Oh, we're done for. Oh, sorry.
We're still running. We're still.
Oh, we're still running.
Yeah.
You want to talk Cassellholme or Cassellholme down?
Well, I want to talk Cassellholme because it was contentious, and obviously you got the CAO of Cassellholme. He's running for council, Jamie Lowry, and it's a hot topic for many people. I would say that's one of the onions that need to be peeled and really sort of show exactly what's going on. I would say that's probably needed a review, more so or in parallel with the calls for a review of the city operations that a mayoral candidate's calling for.
Right, some are calling for that. Okay.
Yeah, so if you're going to review the city, I think you should review Cassellholme as well, and I'd like to see the details and all the pros and cons of the community center out in the middle of the far end of the city.
So I'm going to give you the 90-section spiel on Cassellholme.
Okay.
Okay.
Shoot.
So I've been board chair Cassellholme for 8 years, on the board for 10.
Mm-hmm.
8 years ago, Mattawa, Papineau, Cameron,
Mm-hmm.
Calvin, we want to leave. We're going to put our money into Algonquin, our own neighborhood
Yep.
nursing home. We want to get out of Cassellholme. Okay, great. What does everybody else want to do? And it didn't seem fair to just let them walk away and leave the other municipalities with all the capital costs.
Yeah, when that was on the table.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the end, the agreement that was the saw-off agreement was that all the municipalities would pay their share of the capital costs, regardless of whether they were staying or not, but the exiting municipalities would not have to pay ongoing operational costs. Okay, fair enough. So it actually took us 1.5 years, 2 years almost to get to that point. 2018 was the election. I remember in June of 2019, because I was going on a canoe trip, Vic made the announcement that the funding had been approved for Cassellholme, June of 2018, and they'd also approved the additional beds. Early on in the process, the provinces said, look, we know everybody wants more beds. We're not going to give you any more beds. We're only going to work with the 240 beds you've got right now. That's all you can apply for. With two little asterisks. Number one, if behavioral support, which is patients with tendencies towards violence, difficult to manage, requiring special care, if you're proposing a behavioral support unit, okay, we'll consider that. We applied for 8 behavioral support beds. If you're applying for any First Nation beds in a culturally appropriate setting, we'll consider that application as well. So June 2019, Vic confirmed the funding for Cassellholme, and that included the 24 additional beds, 8 behavioral, 16 First Nation. So now we're up to 264 beds. Off we go. Went to the architects. They had to redo some of the drawings and fit in the additional rooms, and there's always work that the architects have to do. 2019 went to the province by January of 2020, and at that point we were expecting a 6 to 8 week turnaround for the province to come back and say, we love the drawing, the proposal, here's your certificate to proceed construction, great job. Awesome. January 2020. March 2020, COVID-19 came along and everything stopped in its tracks. We were concerned for about 6 months. Is the province going to require single rooms only? Are they going to increase the standards of ventilation in the building? So we're on pins and needles, but eventually in September of 2020, hopefully I got the dates right here, they came out in October and said, that's it guys, we accept it, go to tender. And we went to tender. And up until that point, all the municipalities have been very supportive. Here's what we're applying for, here's what's approved, great idea, we support the Cassellholme redevelopment, full speed ahead. We went to tender. The results didn't come back until February, March of 2021. So depending where you were in your expectations as to the cost, I'm going to say the cost for the construction itself was expected to come in at about $90 million, okay, which is up significantly from amounts that had been quoted about 3 years prior. But the actual cost itself came in at about $99 million. Okay, so it's up, but 264 beds, $99 million bucks. We can do this. Now, at that point, we couldn't announce just the tendered amount because we actually hadn't signed off with PERC on the developer. We had to quote the total amount. So the architectural fees, furniture fixtures, 5% contingency, there are other components to it. So the overall amount that everybody had to quote for about the next 6 months was $121 million. And that really seemed to
trigger people.
Yeah. So in April of that year, what I thought was going to be solid and early support for the project based on the support to date, started to become a series of people not returning phone calls, missing deadlines. We missed the June financing application date with Infrastructure Ontario. We had to go back to the developer to say, look, we're not going to be ready by the end of June, give us a new price. So the price went up $2.7 million because we couldn't get our application in by that date. The next application date was the end of August, and I think the deadline was July 17, so that's when North Bay City Council really brought it before council for a vote. Do we support moving ahead with redevelopment or not? And the redevelopment lost 4-7. Myself, Mark King, George Marousas, Scott Robertson supported moving ahead, signing the Infrastructure Ontario agreements, getting it before them by the end of August, but the majority of council said, no, we don't want to do it. Okay, so we started to get ready to go back to the drawing board, new location, reduced beds, what are we going to do? The lawyer said you can't just send an email to your developer and say, thanks for all your work, but we've changed our mind, or you're going to be open for costs, significant costs. So we as Cassellholme, as a standalone board, we have the ability to levy, which actually supersedes municipal taxes. And as soon as we even raise that proposal, that raised the temperature of the discussion again. So that was the discussion by the end of August. But on the positive side, we heard from behind the scenes. Tell you what. One of the more contentious issues behind the scenes was that the municipalities were going to be required to guarantee the debt on their books, not on the Cassellholme books. So it took 6 weeks, 8 weeks to resolve that issue. But if you remember, around October the 24th, 2021, MPP Vic Fideli had a big press conference. I spent $30 on a yellow tie because he was able to persuade the Ministry of Long-Term Care.
Did you expense it?
To what? No. Councillors don't have an expense account. But anyway, wow, hallelujah. Vic, awesome job. There. So 11 o'clock in the morning, Vic came through. The guarantee requirements can be waived. Awesome. Now we're going to move forward. Hallelujah. Pass the champagne. 11 o'clock in the morning. Came back from lunch at 1:30. There was already a press announcement from the various municipal mayors. We appreciate MPP.
Oh, I remember. Yeah,
we appreciate MPP Fideli's work in removing the guarantee, but we have a series of other concerns as well.
Yeah.
So, that was real. I just remember that sense of lunch bag letdown at the time. Okay.
Yeah.
So
what a roller coaster.
It was.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, let's get together with the municipalities and talk it through. Nobody wanted to be, there was no discussion. They wanted to talk with the minister, with the ministry, and try and, whatever they were going to do. The next deadline was November the 30th. November 30th, the developer had another deadline to either increase their price or walk away from the table. But if we received a certificate of construction from the Ministry of Long-Term Care, then we could proceed to financing. And about 2 days before the November the 30th, and to be honest, a little bit to my surprise, the ministry came through and sent us the certificate of construction. Okay, this is it. We can go to construction now. Next step was financing. Infrastructure Ontario had always been the primary funding proposal. Excellent interest rates, reasonable terms, less than anything else available commercially on the market. We had to sign with them by a date in the middle of December. And again, there was no response from municipalities towards signing that. Okay, well, we've got our certificate of construction. All we need to do is sign the financing agreement with IO at a reasonable rate that's been there for the last 6 months. No one would sign it. Okay, so what the Cassellholme board did, we found a third-party lender, and at a time when interest rates were about 3%, we found a third-party lender who was prepared to lend us money at 14%. This is like the equivalent of payday loans for a $100 million project. They wanted a $400,000 signing fee just for putting their signature on a piece of paper. The expectation was we might have been in court for the next 6 to 9 months claiming the monies back from the province, but they were prepared to do that. So the board actually passed that motion on the Monday night with the one exception. If the municipalities sign by this Friday with Infrastructure Ontario and accept the financing terms that have been offered, then we'll cancel this alternate financing proposal, which was like putting it on a credit card, basically. Municipalities signed on the Thursday. And then from that point, really once the decision was made and set, I think everyone has been more supportive again. I continue to hear good news behind the scenes in terms of the decision we made. I'll give you one example. About a year.
Well, I just want to bring up an example where I think I caught you in a lie.
No way.
Yeah.
No way.
This was not
I deny it.
a 90-second summary.
Oh, sorry. I'll let you speed it up.
Okay, so...
But I'm going to give you two more pieces.
Two more pieces.
So about a year ago, you may remember the Minister of Health at the time came up with a big announcement.
Yeah.
Thank you, third-party for-profit developer for building these beds in our community of long-term care. Awesome. And the sense was they were going to build 150 beds for $90 million. Geez, we could not see how they could do that or how they would fund it. But
yeah, I think theirs was $50 million, and
Now, okay, so we can really delve down into this. When they announced $50 million, okay, so we're prepared to invest $50 million. Yay us.
Yeah.
But they don't mention that the province is actually going to invest another $70 million over 25 years as well.
Yeah.
So the project isn't going to cost $50 million. It's going to cost $125 million. But their share is 50.
Oh, that confused things a little.
Yeah. Because that came up a couple of times. Sudbury had a proposal. Why can they do this?
Yeah.
Well, if you look closely, our investment, and we thank the province for their support. Okay, add those two numbers up.
Yeah.
That's the real cost.
Oh.
Anyway, you'll notice that project did not go ahead.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah. So, in spite of all the optimism and hoopla, when they went to tender, geez, wow, prices have gone up. Holy cow, look at the interest rates. That's not just in North Bay, that was province-wide. So, a lot of those projects have stalled pending improved funding from the project.
So you guys just got in under the wire.
Yeah.
In essence.
Yeah, and we've seen some comparisons that have come in other long-term care homes just in our area where they're getting less beds for more money. So the more we look at the Cassellholme redevelopment, the more comfortable we are with the decision we made. The next piece to it, and it's a significant piece, the province is re-looking at the funding. They realize if these still want to bring forward these 5,000 beds across the province, the old funding envelope and the financing that they offered a year and a half, 2 years ago doesn't work anymore. They've got to provide new funding, and I'm optimistic that when that's announced, Cassellholme will benefit from that as well.
Well,
Sorry, that's there. 93 seconds.
yeah, there you go. 93 seconds. Well, you count like some bookkeepers, I know.
Okay.
But okay. Well, the Cassellholme conflict and that issue was painful to cover and painful to try to explain. And some of these pieces that you're mentioning now, we didn't have that information, and it was contentious. It was
for sure.
murkier.
Yeah.
Like, how much of the blame can be put on the Cassellholme board for not communicating and trying to get municipalities in on it better? Like, there were some complaints about that. Do you think there was any kind of responsibility there to do it differently?
So the Cassellholme board's responsibility was to bring the redevelopment forward.
Yeah.
Right? That's what we're there for. We're there to see that the municipalities provide long-term care for residents in our community.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
no question that was our focus. At the various levels of application to the province for the original number of beds, or revised number of beds, changing the governance from 9 municipalities to 5, those discussions all took place. But when the price came out, no question it was higher than everyone was hoping for, expecting. But here's the price. The board was committed to following through on that. And originally, March, April, when the tender amounts were shared with all the municipalities, originally I thought there was going to be stronger support right out of the gate. That's a great idea. We've got to do it. We'll get this done. But that
Didn't think you had to resell it.
No, that support disintegrated fairly quickly.
How come everybody was resigning on that board?
Oh, okay. Here's another 90-second here.
You don't have to get into details, but it sure seemed like something was stinking.
No, you're right. So the issue was, so up until that point, all the board members were supportive.
Yeah.
I can go back and share the motions, unanimous support to do this, unanimous support to do that. But in April, as some of the municipalities said, this is ludicrous, we can't accept this, some of the board members, Dean Backer, Mattawa, Terry Kelly, Bonfield, mostly Tenderbury-Bosch, North Bay, all of a sudden felt they weren't representing their municipality's best interests. Okay, on the Cassellholme board, your legal duty, your fiduciary duty, is towards Cassellholme and her residents. And when you come to the table, that's the hat you have to wear. So they weren't comfortable with that, so they resigned. Tanya left. Mayor McDonald came on very briefly. But at that point, we were actually getting...
One meeting? Half a meeting?
Half a meeting, yeah.
Okay.
Because the issue there was that we were meeting with the lawyers to discuss strategies moving forward. How are we going to pursue the levy? What are the challenges? What is our legal strategy? And so the mayor is in a unique position because he knows what the city's legal strategy is. Here's Cassellholme's legal strategy. Look, guys, I have to resign. I can't be in the middle and see both. Just even inadvertently, he might share something at a meeting somewhere else that could have.
I was surprised he actually went to go on that board. But.
Well, once it was explained clearly to them, Bill Verebosch was another one, came to the meeting. John D'Agostino, our legal counsel, just reads this short little paragraph on the meaning of fiduciary duty when you're at the table. And, after that was read, Bill decided he really just couldn't do that either.
It must be hard to have those two hats on. How do you do it?
I focus on Cassellholme.
Yeah.
That's why I'm there, to advance the redevelopment, to look after the residents, the staff. It's still a municipal responsibility, but if I'm at the Cassellholme table as the board chair, that is my responsibility.
Well, what do you think of the discussion and some talk of the city taking over the Cassellholme? I don't think they have to now because of the financing, and it wasn't going to necessitate it, but there's still some people that think that's a good idea.
Right, so the city of North Bay has hired consultants to look at the possibility of moving Cassellholme from a municipal home from a district nursing home to a municipal nursing home. District nursing home, the partners right now would be North Bay, North Bay, Bonfield, East Ferris. Help me out here. Who am I missing? I'm missing one more. There's still
Papineau?
four. Maybe South Algonquin. Anyway, so if it's a district nursing home, then the costs and responsibility are shared by that group. If it becomes a North Bay municipal nursing home, then North Bay assumes sole responsibility for it. So now it's on the North Bay books, but it still needs to be run by a board.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm looking for if it does proceed, I'm looking for the details to come out. Is it a board that can run independently to address the issues residents, care providers?
To have fiduciary responsibilities.
Right. Or if the council of the day doesn't like the direction that they're running in, do they have the abilities to step in and, okay, we're going to take out these two councillors and drop in two more people to vote the way we want? So in a nutshell, that's my concern. Cassellholme over the last 8 years, even prior to that, has actually run very well. Our increases have been 0 and 1%. We provide excellent care. We're very financially responsible. And so I'm not sure where that proposal is right now. Maybe it has fallen off the table. But with the point where it comes forward, I'd like to see what the proposed benefits are. And are they significantly tilted towards the municipality, or does it maintain the independence of Cassellholme and a standalone board?
When you said Castle Arms and Cassellholme are separate, if the city takes over Cassellholme, does that asset stay independent, or does it stay with Cassellholme?
Yeah, so Castle Arms is now McKay Homes. Standalone board, standalone building, received no municipal funding, contributes no, may pay taxes, but no, it's completely separate.
Well, who owns it then?
Cassellholme board.
Wasn't it at one point the municipal asset?
I'm sure it would have been as a not-for-profit.
It's built on former city land, isn't it?
Yep, you're right. But the city doesn't own it. The way it was incorporated and set up, it's a standalone corporation. Now, I'm sure in the regulations, I can't sell it tomorrow morning and put $1 million in my pocket. It's a not-for-profit set up under very specific rules of management and what the goals are of the corporation. But no, it's not a municipal organization. There's no taxpayer money goes into it. Yeah, and that's something that has been a recent change in the last 3 years, but it will be increasing in the next few years as well.
Okay, for the last bit here, because we're going long and I know you have to go somewhere. What would you like to
Where would I go?
Eh?
Where would I go?
Canoeing.
Oh, well, good point. Good point.
In the rain, I guess.
Oh, hey, that sounds like canoeing, all right.
Yeah. What would you like the North Bay voters to hear from you as far as when they're making their decisions at the polls? What advice do you give voters at this moment? And do you think, as a secondary question, that the online voting is going to increase the votership?
I hope so. The more people that vote, the more genuine the reflection is of who people want to represent them. So my platform, it's 4 points. You can go to chrismayne.ca to see them in more detail. We didn't talk about it, but source water protection is one of my key issues. This campaign, I think it may have a significant impact on the city in the next 4 years. Long-term care, the interests of Cassellholme and Castle Arms, I put as number 2. Continuing to work hard through DSAB with the province to address homelessness and addictions. Third issue. Fourth is just maintaining a strong capital budget. I've chaired infrastructure and operations in the last 8 years. So to anybody running, you've got 10 votes. It's not like you just have to pick one person. You've got 10 votes. As a candidate myself, all I ask for is one of those 10 votes.
Well, I could see you continuing to do good community service.
Hopefully, well, win, lose, or draw. I think you're always going to stay involved in the community. Like, I'm not, I don't see myself not being back on council. Positioning changes. Last election, I placed fourth. Mike Anthony had to take a step back for health issues, and that's really how I became chair of infrastructure and operations for the last 4 years, and I had chaired it 4 years previous to that.
Mm-hmm.
But even if there are some very strong candidates running this time around, and I can see 3 or 4 persons going to the top fairly quickly just because they're energetic, they're young, they've got some good ideas, and I think they're well known running good campaigns. So wherever I am on council, I think so long as I'm at the table, I'm happy to participate. And in 16 years experience, I think I can bring something to the discussions as well. Mm-hmm. So, fingers crossed, look forward to being back on council and doing the best I can.
Well, there you go. There needs to be...
And I'm a really nice guy.
Yeah,
really nice guy.
I hear you saying that. It's
don't. This isn't the time to argue, Dave.
I hear you. I feel you, man. Well, there you go. I think the council would benefit with a good mix of experience and some fresh blood, because that's what gets you experience down the road, and you get to have people have a chance. It's unfortunate, it's Russian roulette. You never know. The one person that everybody's given a chance to might end up vaulting to the top just because they're the last vote for everybody.
Yeah.
I think we've seen that a few times.
But I agree. I actually called Scott.
Kyle?
No. Brain dead. Scott Robertson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the day after the nominations closed, and I gave him hell for not running again.
Yeah.
Because Scott was a good voice on council. He was just getting his confidence.
I was disappointed that he didn't either. What's he going to do?
Well, you should have him on for an interview.
I did interview him, and the guy didn't even friggin' share it.
Oh.
It never acknowledged that I ever did an interview with him. There was no commentary. That's the last interview I'll do with him. What a waste of time.
There you go. No, I think Scott, for now, is going to focus on family time. He really enjoys his young family. And no question.
As he should.
Yeah, council does take a lot of time.
I enjoyed talking with him. He's a very bright individual. I think he's a little bit, what's the word? He's got big dreams, and he's not willing to settle for incremental changes. I've been told very seriously it needs to be wholesale, and I don't agree with that myself. But
I think one of the things he found frustrating with council is things don't change that quickly.
Yeah.
The idea that on North Bay budget there is no line item to address homelessness and addictions.
Yeah.
He was very keen to change that, and actually didn't support our past budget because of that.
Yeah, I saw him.
Yeah. So I get it, but to me, to be supporting through DSAB and the appropriate agencies is still the best way to build up a long-term, sustainable solution to those issues. Anyway, so Scott was a great councillor, but agreed some of the new councillors have been out at the various meet and greet and candidate nights. Smart, articulate. I'd like to see at least one more female at North Bay Council. The Joanne's running for mayor. She'll either stay on council as mayor, unfortunately be gone. It would be nice to see at least one more strong female voice on council.
Well, I'm not even going to say what came to mind, but I'm hoping it all works out.
I can't even think what would come to your mind.
Yeah, that's why I don't say things.
Okay.
But it would be good to have a well-balanced council, whether they're female or male, as far as their abilities, skills, and perspectives go.
Yeah, and transitioning younger members through, because the first year councillors this year will be the experienced councillors in 4 and 8 years. So agreed, it makes so much sense to have that transition.
Okay, I'll go one more step further. I would prefer that we do look at youth and experience as two things to balance out rather than gender. And I can just say that because I can. I'm not running for council.
Or both. So, some of the female councillors are younger, right? Definitely they are. But they all speak well. I've got one or two.
I'm saying that I don't think gender is as big an issue as people make it out to be.
It's easy to say that if you're one of the 9 guys on council, right? Hey, gender's not a big deal. But I think there is room for more of a larger mix on council.
Sure.
And I really just want all the ladies in North Bay to vote for me as well. But no, I think it is important, and I'm not sure how we compare to other councils, but yeah, if we end up with just one female councillor on council, yeah, I'd rather see at least one more.
I'd like to see 7 on, but it wouldn't be because they're women. It would be because they're good candidates.
Okay,
I'm not going to withdraw
gotcha.
from that.
Yep.
Right?
Okay. No.
I don't care if they're all women.
Okay.
But
Yep,
I just don't want to have people.
I don't want them
just
to.
because of
I don't want
gender.
them to all be women.
Eh?
I don't want them. To all
You
be
don't,
women.
because you got a conflict of interest there.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Well,
Anyway.
thanks, Chris.
No, thank you, Dave. It was great to talk to
I
you.
hope it serves some purpose in educating the electors on a little bit more about you and the work you do.
Interesting to see, who actually reads it, and so you're going to send me a link at some point.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Look forward to getting it. Just when I thought Netflix was dull,
Yeah. Well, you know what? People can't say there's nothing out there. That's all I'm trying to do is put something out there for people and say, it is out there. If you are interested, take a look, because I'm sure you waste your time doing things that are less productive than listening to a council candidate.
Yeah, because local media is so fragmented.
Yeah.
It is hard to get the message out, but I appreciate what you're doing.
Cool.
Oh, okay.
These stools are made specifically so we don't sit in them for more than an hour.
God. Okay, there we go.